Good morning. Grandma has a wonderful Christmas story to share with you. This book, The Apple Tree Christmas, was written by Trinka Hakes Noble. She's my very, very favorite Michigan author. And she not only wrote this story, but she drew all of the pictures in the book. It's a very old fashioned story. Let's look inside. Apple Tree Christmas. Oh, I see some apple pie and a basket of apples. There's the title page. Got that little house down there. And this is the dedication page. She writes, oh boy, I've got to turn the book a little bit. For my wise and wonderful father, who made a drawing board for me many years ago, on which I drew this book for him many years later. So she drew this book in honor of her father, who made her a drawing board. I bet that's what got her started with art. The Ansterburgs lived at the end of an old barn. Underneath, Mrs. Woolley and her lambs softly moved about. Old Dan bumped in his stall, and Sweet Clover mooed at milking time. On the first floor, Mama cooked on the big black stove, and Papa worked in his workshop, and above, Katrina and Josie slept in the hayloft. Someday, Papa would build them a real home, but for now, living in the barn with the soft animal sounds and the sweet smell of hay was just right. You see the horses the horse and the cow grazing, and the sheep, they live down there, and the family lives up here, and the girls are up in the hayloft playing. Near the farm was an old apple tree. It was overgrown with wild grapevines, but Papa never cut away the vines because they made a natural ladder to get to the higher apples. Besides, he always joked, I could never separate such close friends. Girls, we'll be picking apples soon, said Mama. Maybe sooner than you think, said Papa. I heard they got a foot of snow up north. Oh, dear, fretted Mama. Winter so soon? We'd better get the apples in tomorrow, said Papa, and I'll make a big batch of apple butter, said Mama. You girls should stay home from school to help pick apples, help sort apples. Hooray, shouted Katrina and Josie. The next morning the ground was white, but even in the snow, sorting apples was fun. Some went into a pile for cider and applesauce, some went into baskets for pies, and small ones were for their lunch pails, and the bruised ones were for old Dan. But finding the apples to decorate their Christmas tree was what Katrina and Josie liked best. All day long they picked and chose until the most beautiful apples all stood on the stone wall. There we go. Look at all the biggest and nicest apples on the stone wall. And then Mama picked the biggest one. This will make a nice clover apple for our Christmas dinner table, she said. They wrapped the rest of the apples in cloth, and Papa put them in the bottom of the barn to keep until Christmas. Look at Papa way up high in the ladder, and Mama's stirring the apple butter. And the girls are sorting different piles. Now that the apples were picked, Katrina and Josie could climb the tree as much as they wanted. The snowy weather didn't stop them. Every day after school, they would play in the branches. On one side, Papa had pulled a thick vine down low enough to make a swing for Josie, and the other side of the tree belonged to Katrina. One limb made a perfect drawing board. She called it her studio. There she would dream and draw until the cold winter sun glowed low behind the trees. Oh, look at that branch. It makes just a perfect seat, doesn't it? Time for chores, called Mama as she lit the lantern. Katrina and Josie ran inside the barn and climbed down the ladder to the animals' stalls. First, they shelled corn for the hens, then they fed and watered old Dan. They saved Mrs. Woolley and her family until last so they could stick their cold fingers deep into her wool coat. How warm you are, Mrs. Woolley, said Katrina, just as warm as the scarf and socks that we're knitting for Papa's Christmas presents. Right, Katrina? Said Josie. Shh, he might hear you, scolded Katrina. Look, there's Papa. He's milking the cow, and oh, he's not far away from them, is he? Oh, look, the horse thinks maybe he's going to get an apple. Look at all the cats waiting for some milk to spill. But Papa didn't hear them. He was busy putting Mrs. Woolley and her family in with old Dan and Sweet Clover. Papa, what are you doing? Asked Katrina. We'll put the stock together tonight so they can keep warm. You climb up and stuff straw in those holes. It must have dropped 20 degrees in the last hour, said Papa. Do you think we're in for a blizzard? Asked Katrina. Wouldn't be a bit surprised. Probably be 40 below by morning. Katrina could feel the north wind blowing through the holes in the barn. Papa spread a thick layer of straw around the animals and then watered them again because by morning the trough would be frozen solid. It was cold upstairs too, but Mama had moved the table close to the stove, and a hot supper of apple fritters and maple syrup soon warmed them up. Oh, there's Josie giving some milk to the cats. That night the blizzard hit with full force. The old barn shook and its beams creaked as if they were in pain. In the loft, Katrina woke with a start. She could hear Papa and Mama talking softly below. Probably be gone by morning, Papa said. So she snuggled closer to Josie and went back to sleep. But the blizzard got worse and lasted for 3 days and nights. Oh my goodness. On the third night, something strange woke Katrina. The wind was howling and the beams were screaming, but there was a different sound, one more frightening. Like a million sharp knives slashing the roof, cutting the barn, trying to get in. Katrina was so frightened that she started to scream, but Mama and Papa were already there, wrapping them up in quilts. Papa, what is it? Asked Katrina, shaking with fright. Ice storm. We're moving you girls downstairs in case the roof caves in under the weight. Oh dear, that would be awful, wouldn't it? Mama put Katrina and Josie on the feather bed under the table. Oh, there they are. But Katrina, now try to sleep, she said, but Katrina couldn't fall asleep. The ice storm tore at the barn, and throughout the night Katrina was startled by the loud splintering sounds of big limbs snapping like twigs. When Mama opened the stove door and added more wood, the firelight made an eerie orange glow. Her shadow looked big and strange. Katrina knew Mama would keep the fire going no matter what. That looks a lot like the old stove that used to be in Calava. The next morning, there was calm. The storm had passed. Katrina was glad until she saw Papa's long face when he came inside. The ice storm took the old apple tree, he said. But surely the vines would hold it together, said Mama. No, it split right down the middle. I'll chop it up for firewood, said Papa. Oh no, they're not going to have apples next year, are they? Katrina ran to the window and knelt down. Through her tears, she saw nothing but a heap of snow and ice and dead branches. Oh boy, do you know what part of the tree she's saddest about? I think I know. The place where she liked to sit and draw. Every morning, Papa brought in another pile of firewood and vines from the apple tree. Mama said they should keep busy knitting Papa's Christmas presents. Josie finished Papa's scarf and made one for Mama, too. Katrina worked on Mama's pincushion, but she just couldn't concentrate on knitting Papa's socks while he sawed and hacked away at the apple tree. She had ripped out the heel and started over so many times that she had all but ruined the yarn from Mrs. Woolley. Well, I'll miss that old apple tree, said Mama, but it will keep us warm this long winter. Yes, I'm thankful for the firewood, said Papa. How could he be thankful, thought Katrina. Didn't he know that he was chopping up her studio? Didn't he know he was ruining her drawing board? Didn't he know she couldn't draw unless she were in the apple tree? That's what she's worried about. She thinks she can't draw anymore because her special place is gone. The day before Christmas came, Mama made her clove apple and began baking pies. Papa brought in a fresh pine tree, and they decorated it with the beautiful apples. But to Katrina, it just didn't feel like Christmas. Even when she went to bed on Christmas Eve, Papa was still sawing away at the apple tree. On Christmas morning, their stockings were filled with oranges, hickory nuts, black walnuts, and peppermint sticks. Josie gave Papa and Mama their scarves. Katrina gave Mama the pincushion, but she still didn't feel like Christmas. It still didn't feel like Christmas to Katrina. And then Papa said, "Now, my little ones, turn around and close your eyes. No peeking." First, Katrina heard Papa and Mama ask Mama to help him, and then she heard him hammering something to the beam, and then he dragged something across the floor. "All right, you can look now." They whirled around. Oh my goodness. There, hanging from the beam, was Josie's swing, the very same vine swing from the apple tree. Sitting on the swing was a little rag doll that Mama had made, and near the swing was a drawing board made from the very same limb that had been Katrina's studio. On the drawing board were real charcoal paper and 3 sticks of willow charcoal. Katrina softly touched the drawing board. She wanted to say, "How wise and wonderful you are, Papa, and thank you, Papa, and I'll always love you, Papa." But all she could say was, "Oh, Papa." Papa didn't say anything either. He just handed her 3 sticks of charcoal. Josie began to swing with her doll, and Katrina started to draw. Now she could see how beautiful Mama's clove apple looked on the white tablecloth and how shiny red the apples were on the Christmas tree. Now she could smell the fresh winter pine tree and the warm apple pies. Now it felt like Christmas. Katrina gave her first drawing to Papa. It was a picture of the day when Papa picked the apples and Mama made apple butter, and Katrina and Josie sorted apples. And in the corner, Papa wrote, "This picture was drawn by Katrina Ansterburg on Christmas Day, 1881. And there it is. Then he hung it in his workshop. And there it stayed for many long years. And that's the end. Well, this reminds me of something that you probably don't know, Eleanor. Do you remember the old barn in Calava? It's not nearly this big, is it? And it's painted red. Well, when your great grandma Rosler was a little girl, she was born in that barn. Her family built the barn before they could build a house, and they lived in the barn just like the Ansterburgs live in this barn. Isn't that interesting? So the next time you come to Calava, you'll have to look at that old barn and remember that that's where great grandma Rosler was born and where her family lived for about 7 years before they built the house. And the end. The Apple Tree Christmas. I hope you liked this one. Bye-bye.